The latest on Sasha Banks is that she will, as first reported by Mike Johnson of PW Insider, be appearing for New Japan Pro Wrestling next month at its Wrestle Kingdom show at the Tokyo Dome. She will not be wrestling on that show, but she will be part of it in some way. As I said last week, she's probably coming out to confront Kairi after Kairi retains her IWGP Women's Championship against Tam Nakano. That then sets up a title match between the two. There was an interesting little nugget in The Observer that Kairi had been rumored for the Women's Royal Rumble match next month. But that was before the plans changed with her winning the IWGP title. Apparently, Mayu Iwatani was originally supposed to be the first champion. She was going to beat Kairi when they had their match. They were really going to build around her. She has a movie about her life coming out next year also. But she wanted to renegotiate her deal because holding the IWGP belt would have meant an increase in her U.S. bookings. But they couldn't agree to a new deal. So they went with Kairi instead. So who knows if those plans are out the window now. Look, this is a company that booked, and this is when Vince McMahon was still in power. They booked Mickie James in the Royal Rumble match this year as the Impact Knockouts champion. So anything is possible. But Fightful said that Sasha's WWE exit was negotiated months ago, likely when Raj Giri of Wrestling Inc. tweeted in June that Sasha was released. That would have been a month after she and Naomi walked out of the company. And Raj got a lot of flack for reporting that at the time. WWE, though, has yet to confirm this to Fightful. Sasha is still listed on the Superstar section on WWE.com. My guess is that she comes off the page after the clock strikes midnight on January 1st. It was also reiterated to Fightful that she would be able to take wrestling bookings after January 1st. And again, she has not been officially announced for Wrestle Kingdom publicly. She herself has said nothing to confirm nor deny any of these reports. But New Japan likely would not be able to say publicly anything anyway about this until after the new year. So it's like, why even bother announcing anything? If she's there, let her show up as a surprise. Get people talking. Even though it wouldn't be a surprise to anybody with a smartphone or a Wi-Fi connection. If you've still got that sweet dial-up connection, well, I mean, the page is probably still loading. You can't really make out the headline because it's still pixelated. So to those people, it might be a surprise. To the rest of us, though, it won't be a surprise. But per The Observer, the appearance is said to be leading to multiple dates, as many dates in the US and Japan as she can commit to. But whatever those dates are, they would be major shows only, not tours. And the deal is with New Japan, but it does include one date for the Stardom promotion, likely for a show in April. Voices of Wrestling reported on their Patreon that her deal was the largest that Bushiroad, their parent company, has ever agreed to as far as a per-date deal. And they specified that it was larger than what they were paying for Chris Jericho. The people have been throwing around numbers for what Jericho made during his New Japan run. And Jericho himself tweeted that the money I reportedly made during my run with New Japan from 2018 to 2020 online currently is completely wrong. I never had a flat per appearance deal. I was paid according to the event. And I made more per event than I did for most of my WrestleMania matches. I would hope his main event with Triple H is not included in that, being, in a WrestleMania main event should have been one of the biggest paydays of his career. But that may have been why he said he made more for that than most. He didn't say all of his WrestleMania matches. Meltzer says that it is a huge per-event deal, big enough that Rossi Ogawa of Stardom, when first approached with the scenario, turned it down, thinking that it was not cost-effective. However, Takaki Kadani, the CEO of Bushiroad, wanted the deal made at her asking price. Apparently, Sasha reached out months ago to Ogawa, but due to the asking price, it went nowhere, until Kadani later ordered that the deal be made. So here's the deal on Sasha and WWE. The two sides, they did not reach terms on a new contract. There were negotiations, there were conversations. Those in the company in recent months said that the sides were not close on the money. She and WWE reached an agreement in the summer regarding her leaving, and the agreement was that they would release her to be a free agent rather than freeze her contract, but that she could not do anything wrestling related until January. And then when Vince McMahon left and Triple H took over creative, the two sides came together to negotiate a new deal, and it was considered to be close. And there were reports that came out a few months ago that suggested that, hey, Sasha could be on her way back any day now. It looked pretty close to a done deal. But I guess aside from the money figure, there were other issues, and they ended up being far apart. Meltzer says Sasha was seeking a number along the levels of Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. And those internally said that she was not offered numbers that were even close to that. They said that she's not seen internally as somebody who would be on top for the next 5 years, but is seen as someone who could get a singles or a tag team title run, but has peaked as a star, aside from the reality that was acknowledged that if she were to return, there would be a honeymoon period where people would go nuts for her. I find that last part to be hilarious because that happens with every single star that comes back. Why would Sasha Banks be any different? Bray Wyatt came back at Extreme Rules and got a huge reaction and at TV that week. Is he still getting good reactions now? Yes. But is the honeymoon phase over? Yes. I think it is. They're not going nuts the way they did his first week back. And you knew that that was unrealistic to expect. The key is in not overexposing these people. But most people who come back and get a monster reaction, the reactions peter out as the weeks go on. So I just laugh at the notion that somebody in the company would cite this as one of their reasons for not paying Sasha Banks what she wants or what she, feels she deserves, when that happens to every other person when they make a big return. I read that, and here's my take on what I'm getting out of this. They know that this woman has had and is going to have opportunities to do a lot of things outside of wrestling. And they don't feel like making a long-term expensive investment in someone who is not going to dedicate their entire life to WWE. Now, let's look at it from WWE's perspective. And I see that this woman has walked out on the company before. Not once, but twice that we know of. I still have no idea what happened at SummerSlam last year and why Sasha was pulled from that show at the last minute. That's when Becky Lynch stepped in to wrestle Bianca Belair, and she beat her for the title in 26 seconds. We never found out why Sasha was pulled from that show. Was it an injury? Was it an illness? Was it a disciplinary thing? Did she walk out again? We don't know. And that was a terrible bait and switch by the company, but we don't know the full circumstances behind it. Now that Sasha is going to be free as of January 1st, right? She's going to be free and clear. I would love for someone to ask her about that and see if she can help clear that up. But she has walked out on them twice before, and even if you think she had good reasons for doing so, and I supported her and Naomi when they walked out in May, I can see from WWE's point of view, this person has walked out twice now. Can we trust her in that position? If we pay her top dollar, and I don't mean top dollar like he crashed and burned on SmackDown this week, I mean top dollar, and we push her as one of our top stars, can we trust that she is not going to just walk away again the next time she's unhappy? I can understand that if that was part of WWE's calculation here. But this idea that she has already peaked and that she isn't worth top star money like Becky Lynch and Charlotte are getting, it is very clear that Sasha Banks was never the chosen one like Charlotte Flair was, or Becky Lynch, or Ronda Rousey for that matter. And Ronda is not exactly lighting the world on fire right now in her current run, and that is being very generous. But they have never seen Sasha in the same light. Last time we saw her, they paired her with Naomi to hold the women's tag team titles, which she already had before. She did that before with Bayley. That was their great idea for Sasha Banks, to put the women's title, the tag team titles back on her, and just pair her up with someone else they didn't have any real plans for, coming out of Naomi's program with Sonya Deville. Or how about early on in her main roster run where it became a running joke that Butterfinger was her favorite candy because she couldn't hold on to any of the titles that she won. She would win, and then within a few weeks, they would slip right through her fingers. She had Butterfingers. The booking did not exactly support her. But if this is how WWE views her, then she's making the right decision to not go back there, because if she did, where would she even rank in the pecking order there? It's pretty clear that Bianca Belair is ranked above her right now. Probably Rhea Ripley too. If Sasha Banks were to go back to WWE today, Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley would already be above her. and would stay above her. And we know they ranked Charlotte above her and Becky above her. So at best, she would be number 5. And I didn't even mention Ronda. So not even top 5 when it comes to the women in WWE. They think that she's peaked. The woman is only 30 years old. She's actually the youngest out of all the horsewomen. So the idea that she has peaked as a star is ridiculous. Now, I will say this. As a fan of Sasha and a fan of her work, the greatest thing that she has ever done in WWE is still the match that she had with Bayley in Brooklyn. And that was 7 years ago. It's been 7 years since the match in NXT, which is still the greatest women's match in the history of that company. You can say that that was the peak moment of her career. She's had plenty of great matches since then, but none that have had the emotion that that match did. Everything about that, the story leading up to it, and the personalities involved, and the entrances, and the match itself, and the fan reaction, and the finish, everything about it was just fantastic. But I don't blame her for that. I think a lot of it can be owed to the booking and the things that they had her doing. Again, she's had great matches since then, against Becky at Hell in a Cell, against Bianca at WrestleMania, against Charlotte. Brooklyn is still the peak. But to write her off and say that her career has peaked at 30 years old and she can't get any higher is one of the stupidest things that I have ever heard. This is a woman who is insanely marketable. She absolutely should be making comparable money to someone like Charlotte Flair. Becky Lynch, I can understand making more than any of the other women because Becky is the biggest star they have on the female side of the roster. She took off in a way that nobody expected, and she became a phenom. She became a huge star, and she earned it. Whatever she's making, she's earned it. But to say that Sasha isn't close to the same level, at least as Charlotte, is nonsense. You know, people got on her case for asking $30,000 for her C2E2 appearance in August, which I think is what Sting was charging. And it sparked a huge debate about whether or not she's worth that much money. And I said it at the time. I thought, if anything, she was underselling herself. And we broke down the numbers and how much was being charged for an autograph and a photo, and I thought she was actually underselling herself. Because that's the number her agents determined people would be willing to pay to have her. And they were right. Do not underestimate the rabid fan base that this woman has. People are free to determine what they feel they're worth. If promoters are not willing to pay her fee, and they're not willing to pay her asking price, then she'll have to reduce it, or she'll have to go somewhere else. WWE was not willing to meet her price. Bushy Road was. Always know your worth. She went out and she got the money that she was looking for. You gotta respect that.